Hurricane Harvey looks like President Trump's first national weather crisis, and already one Republican senator is warning the president to stay on top of things. That would be Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley. He tweeted out this morning, @RealDonaldTrump, keep on top of Hurricane Harvey. Don't make the same mistake President Bush made with Katrina. Whew. Lots to get to this morning. I'm joined by Mo Kelly, host of the Mo Kelly Show on KFI-FM and AM in Los Angeles, and John Phillips, host of his own talk show at KABC in LA. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
So, Senator Grassley, warning President Trump to keep on top of things. I mean, surely he is, John.
I think so. That was a huge disaster for President Bush in his second term when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans and hit the coast of Louisiana, and clearly the government wasn't prepared. The president has been tested by North Korea. He's been tested by other international events in Syria and Afghanistan. This would, of course, be his first major weather system that hit the country, and I think he'll pass with flying colors.
Well, here's the only concern that critics have, and also Senator Chuck Grassley, frankly, right? The Department of Homeland Security, that position is not filled. The Homeland Security Department oversees FEMA and the U.S. Coast Guard, very important organizations when it comes to, protecting people from the dangers of the hurricane. So,
organization for the Trump administration has not been their strong suit thus far. Focus of the president specifically and individually has not been his strong suit thus far. The tweet may have been flippant on some level by Senator Grassley, but it was almost necessary because we need to remind this president what's most important is not campaigning, but also taking care of the nation. I would disagree with John when he says that the president met the previous test with North Korea and other things with flying colors, because nothing really happened. This is an actual incident that he will have to manage and maintain order. So we will see what happens.
Well, in fairness, the president did go and visit FEMA, right? FEMA seems to be in action this morning, delivering goods to where they need to be. The U.S. Coast Guard appears to be ready. The Navy ships have moved farther offshore, the Coast Guard ships ready to come back in when needed, when the storm settles down.
And sometimes less is more. I think we could have done pretty well during Katrina without Mr. Brownie. And they have generals in very sensitive parts of this administration. The chief of staff is a general. McMaster, the national security advisor, is a general.
Well, General Kelly was head of the Department of Homeland Security.
That's right.
Now he's the president's right-hand man, and he's going to be sitting beside the president the whole time. Doesn't that make you feel better?
If he's working in a babysitting capacity, but ultimately everything starts at the top or fails from the top. And I have not been encouraged. I mean, everything this president will do will either inspire confidence or create concern. And if we look at his overall behavior, it creates concern with me that he can manage this.
When they start sending snorkels in, that's when we can worry. Until then, I think we're okay.
All right, and we'll switch gears for a little bit because a new problem cropped up just this morning. It involves Gary Cohn, who is President Trump's chief economic guy. That's the man who crafts tax reform and other economic policies that affect all of us, frankly. In an interview with the Financial Times, Cohn, who is Jewish, said, quote, "I have come under enormous pressure both to resign and to remain in my current position. As a patriotic American, I'm reluctant to leave my post, but I also feel compelled to voice my distress over the events of the last 2 weeks. Citizens standing up for equality and freedom can never be equated with white supremacists, neo-Nazis, and the KKK." Now, let me take you back. You can see Cohn's distress as he stood by President Trump as Trump doubled down on his controversial comments over what happened in Charlottesville. Okay, John, so Gary Cohn's coming out and calling the president out publicly. Usually that doesn't sit well with President Trump. Gary Cohn is an important man in this administration, so what happens now?
Yeah, it was a very strong statement. There are reports out that say that Jared and Ivanka made similar comments privately to the president. And organizationally, this is how the president runs his shop. It's very similar to how Nixon ran his White House. It's similar to how Roger Ailes ran Fox News. And that is, you have all of these warring factions underneath you whose loyalties are to you. And they have a food fight. I mean, they all have different points of view. They all come in with very strong feelings on certain subjects. They make their case, and then the president decides to act or react or not act at all.
But here's the thing. Gary Cohn, he almost resigned. He made a special trip to see the president, and then the president goes to Phoenix, right? Kind of says some divisive stuff, right? And then he appears later to talk to veterans, and he's like less divisive, right?
Well, I mean,
he's a unifier. So in Gary Cohn's mind, I mean, isn't he confused too?
The Phoenix rally is independent of what went down in terms of their reaction to Charlottesville. Gary Cohn knew what he was getting when he signed up for this job. President Trump is not acting any different now than how he acted during the campaign. And when you talk about public employees and you talk about, what defines a teacher's competence or what defines a professor's competence, it's the level at which they were performing when they were given their tenure, when they were hired. He is behaving exactly the same way.
No, go ahead, Mo.
I have to think this way. When you mentioned Richard Nixon and also Roger Ailes, let's talk about how those stories ended for both Roger Ailes and also Richard Nixon. It's fine that he may want to manage in that style, but let's not forget, this is the type of chaos which brings concern to the nation. Not only do you have a top advisor speaking out publicly, if he's saying that publicly, what are they saying privately? And when you talk about the message of this administration, we have people who are leaving and coming in from the communications aspect. I'm not so sure that this administration is in anything less than disarray.
Okay, I have to leave it there. Thanks to you both, Mo Kelly, John Phillips. Thanks so much.